Hello, F2 Fan 5000 here, going to discuss the Italian leg of the 2025 FIA Formula 2 Championship. It's a very chaotic weekend, a lot of crashes, a lot of poor driving, so I'm going to get into the driver ratings now. Leonardo Fornaroli, championship leader, he gets a 6 out of 10, one of his worst weekends of the year, and yet his 6 out of 10 is one of the highest ratings because the standards were very poor. I want people to remember that some of the recent races such as Hungaroring, Silverstone, Spa-Francorchamps, the standards of racing were very high, but for whatever reason at Monza here, it was chaotic. There were a lot of crashes, and as for Fornaroli, he's been the sprint race. He was sensational. I didn't expect that he would be so dominant, and then he was clean and clinical. But then in this feature race, he's had his worst race of the year by far. He spent the first half of the race weaving around, lost a piece of his front wing, running off, and then in the second half of the race he settled down, controlled the car to 5th place, so a decent recovery. I was going to give him less, but I think the second half of the feature race he drove well to settle down and just maximise the points. Good defensive driving against Dino Beganovic. So 6 out of 10. Roman Stanek gets a 7 out of 10. He's driven fairly well this weekend. He lost it. He got a few points in the sprint race, a decent sprint race without being as sensational as his teammate. He didn't come through the field or anything. However, in the feature race, he's running in a podium position and he gets swiped by Arvid Lindblad with the broken front wing. That's not the fault of Roman Stanek. In any case, I think Stanek was driving well, so Arvid Lindblad gets a 0 out of 10. He did very well in the sprint race, actually. He drove a very nice race, attacking Fornaroli, couldn't get past. But then in the feature race, he's driven so horribly, I think it wipes all the positive energy away. It's not good that he's very poor, like just straight into the back of Alex Dunn. And then his front wing is broken and he smashes into Roman Stanek. I don't know what Campos were doing in the sight of that mechanic trying to put some duct tape over that huge hole in the side pod. That was hilarious. It was comically bad, and yeah, dreadful weekend for Arvid Lindblad, and I don't know what it does for his reputation doing all that. Pepe Marti gets a 7 out of 10. I don't want to talk about the qualifying. Obviously, he couldn't get the lap he wanted in. He's made progress in both the races and come through for a decent podium in this feature race. That's a good result from him. Flies a little bit under the radar. His teammate is so highly rated, but Pepe Marti's done a pretty decent job and he's stayed out of trouble to get good points. Oliver Goethe is a driver I am going to give a negative rating to. I'm sorry, but his weekend was shockingly bad. So let's go through it. He's qualified well, but let's not forget qualifying was tainted by the fact that most drivers didn't get a lap in. In the sprint race, he's just, spinning around on the grass, throwing away a potential sprint race podium. That's hopeless, if I'm being honest. In the feature race, he's running in the lead of the race. So it looks good, and then he pits and then after he pits there's a safety car, so he loses out. Okay, that's not his fault. What is his fault is his terrible racecraft, locking up tyres, going off, and there's nothing else for me to say about Goethe. It's just when he makes 1 or 2 steps forward, he'll make 3 or 4 steps back. It's the racecraft is always poor, and he always lets results slip through his fingers. I'll have to give him a -5. That was just embarrassing. Richard Verschoor gets a 1 out of 10. A driver that experienced who should not be making those errors. It just crashes in qualifying, ruins everyone's lap, and in the races he's been a little bit average, but he's got minor points. But it doesn't look like title winning form at the moment for Richard Verschoor. The speed isn't there. Yeah, a couple of good overtakes, but 5th season in F2, we should be seeing a lot better. Since his Austria feature race win, he's been on the back foot. He's been disappointing, and he gets a 1 out of 10 because I expect so much more. Now, while everyone's had a terrible weekend, there's one driver that had a sensational weekend. I'm going to give Luke Browning a 10 out of 10. He's had a fabulous weekend. Now, his pole position, people might say, well, he was lucky because other drivers didn't get the lap in. But to me, what stood out for me is he had the presence of mind to get that lap in early. He deserves praise for that. He was a bit average in the sprint race, and because of that I was going to dock him a point, but when you consider everything that happened in that race, in that feature race, I think Luke Browning drove superbly, a well-earned win, and now he's looking like potentially the only driver that could challenge Leonardo Fornaroli for this title. I don't know if he's consistent enough, but at least he's in form. He had some good races in the wet before the summer break where he made up a lot of positions, but in this particular race he was flawless. He's a bit older than some of the other drivers. People will use that against him, but I think that's fair enough. If you've got the maturity, just show it on the track, and he did. And yes, 10 out of 10 for me. And of course he's demolishing his highly rated teammate Dino Beganovic, who gets a 6.5. He kept his nose clean. In the sprint race he's disappointing. He's moved from the pole position down to 4th place, not had any pace. And then in the feature race he's kept his nose clean, come through for a 6th place. It's polished, as in his racecraft is not bad. It's a bit disappointing from Dino Beganovic. Moving on, Gabriele Mini, I'll give him a 4 out of 10. He's suffered in qualifying. Somehow because no one got their lap in, he's still 15th. He's come through for points in both races. It sounds good, but sloppy all around. Crashed into Victor Martins, didn't get a penalty for that. Hopeless weekend, if I'm being honest. Just that so many other people were so much worse. Sebastian Montoya gets a 4 out of 10. He gets a 5 because he was anonymous, but yeah, because he's had to start from the back of the grid, I think coming through for 10th place is reasonable. Nothing spectacular from Montoya. He's been a bit lacklustre after that good run of form from about Imola to Silverstone. Yeah, just at the odd point now and then, a few incidents, and generally lacking pace. Jack Crawford, I have to give him a 0 out of 10. Absolutely awful weekend. I can't blame him for his qualifying, but what I can blame him for is just being slow generally in the races. Even though he's avoided all incidents, he has missing weekends, and this is a missing weekend. He showed absolutely nothing. And if weekends like that are going to cost him the title. He's now 30 points behind Fornaroli. Luke Browning's ahead of him. Obviously, to me, the 30-point gap is not the issue for Crawford. For me, it's the off weekends, the lack of consistency that's going to his form at the moment. He had a terrible weekend at Spa-Francorchamps. He's had a terrible weekend here. 0 points. This is the irony of it all. Like Leonardo Fornaroli had a rough weekend, especially in the qualifying. His car broke down in the feature race. He's been all over the place. But in Jack Crawford had a clean weekend, but there's missing in action. Absolutely 0 points is unbelievably bad. Unbelievably bad. Kush Miney gets a 0. I'm sorry, but he just does. His racecraft is very poor for a driver at his age, maturity level. 3rd year. He's not going forward. He's going backwards. He doesn't seem to know when to pull out of a move. He just goes for every gap and hopes that it works out. And coming to Alex Dunn, following on from what I just said about Kush Miney, I'll give Alex Dunn a 5 out of 10. I don't think he's done anything wrong here. He's been given a penalty in the sprint race, but to me that was just Kush Miney doing Kush Miney things. I'm sorry, but that hanging it around the outside in Curva Grande he could have backed off and lived to fight another day. He didn't, and that's on Kush Miney. And I think that was more evident in the feature race when he's trying to hang it around the Lindblad on the outside of the chicane. Was a move that I think wasn't on. It's something that he could have backed out of, and even though he's had a good qualifying position, he comes away from the weekend with 0 points and just getting caught up in incidents. So that's my take on Kush Miney. And Alex Dunn has done nothing wrong, but he's got nothing to show for it. I think he's all but out of the title race, but he should focus on getting up to 3rd in the standings so that he can, and he's 20 points back from Jack Crawford or something like that, and he can overtake Jack Crawford, get those super license points. Amaury Cordell gets a 0. Absolutely horrible weekend, especially running into the back of another car under safety car. I don't have anything else to say about Cordell. Victor Martins, I don't know about Victor Martins anymore. Every time I see him, either someone's crashing into him or I don't know. I feel like I don't know what to say. I'll give him a 1 out of 10. And Ritomo Miata gets a 1 out of 10 in spite of, we saw the flashes of brilliance at Spa-Francorchamps, and since then it's just back to normal. With all the crashing and stuff that's going on, you'd think that Miata would be, in the points, but no points, nowhere near the points. And Megatunov is my co-worst driver for the whole weekend, along with Goethe. He gets a -5, just spinning around, crashing around. It's no racecraft at all. Sorry, but that why I give negative to some drivers is because they had a weekend so bad that it's spoiling their reputation. A 0 out of 10 is sort of like, it's a neutral thing. But to me, what Megatunov did this weekend, what Goethe did this weekend, is showing that they don't have the racecraft that they weren't ready for F2. Goethe spinning around in the grass. Megatunov, I don't know. It's like he has no racecraft whatsoever. And I take back the words that I said in my F2 lineup predictions video for 2026, saying that he deserves better than Trident. I take that back. He doesn't. He doesn't deserve a shot at ART or Dams or anything next year. Of course, money might dictate that, but the driving standards he showed are lackluster, not worthy of a top team in F2. Max Sesterson gets a 1 out of 10. He avoided all the incidents. It's not his fault that his car broke down in the sprint race, but at the end of the day, he showed no pace whatsoever. In the feature race, once the safety car comes in, he's always off the back of the pack. He never looks like scoring a point. So 1 out of 10 for Max Sesterson. Joshua Dirksen, he gets an 8 out of 10. Fantastic weekend for Dirksen. A double podium in the straight line. The AIX isn't too bad. We saw that last year, but I don't want to attribute this to the car. Dirksen had excellent racecraft. His battle with Browning was good. His podium in the sprint race was good. And then Chian Shields, he gets a 0 out of 10 because that move under the safety car is ridiculous, you know. He just suddenly sped up, and when he realised he's going to drive into the back of the other car, he veers off into the barrier. That's just a complete waste, complete nonsense. Now, perhaps the best performing driver pairing across the whole weekend was the VAR team. And yeah, they've done a very good job. So John Bennett, I'll give him a 7 out of 10. I know he scored a lot less points than his teammate, but I think he's just shown gradual improvement. He's got a point now. I think he deserved to have points before, but anyway, he's got a point on the board. I mean, this is what I mean about Jack Crawford. He got overtaken by John Bennett in the closing stages of that race. I mean, a year Formula One material, if you have no pace every third weekend, I don't know about that. But Bennett, yeah, decent racecraft, no incidents, a point on the board, good weekend from him. Rafael Villagomez, 8 out of 10. Third best driver after Browning and Dirksen. Very good weekend. No incidents. It's not in a feature race. I took advantage of all the chaos around him, and well done to him. Good points on the board. VAR overall, I think the best driver pairing this weekend. Good job. So just a bit of analysis, right? I just want to talk about the safety car that came out. Obviously, a few drivers, including Goethe, Verschoor and Crawford, were negatively impacted by that early safety car. But as I said, I marked them down not because they were impacted by the safety car, but because of their poor racecraft. And of course, someone like Verschoor, he should be doing a lot better than he is. You know, being a fifth season driver, just crashing in qualifying like that. I think that Formula 2 is going to get a little bit of a bad rap, and I think it's unfair. I don't think the driving standards generally are poor this year, but whatever happened to here at Monza is they've had some good wet races, some good wet race driving in Formula 2 this year. As I said, very few incidents at Silverstone, and Spa obviously were a couple. But in the pouring rain, you know, Formula 1 didn't race in the rain at Spa. Formula 2 did, so that's, you know, Alex Dunn was very impressive there. But here we are. It's just a crash fest. We've seen crash fests before in the junior formula at Monza, I think, but this was particularly bad. Poor racecraft all around. No, I want to talk a little bit more about that. I think that especially Luke Browning, you know, I think he's a bit older because he's had to come to F3 and F2 in a different manner. He's had to go around the block a bit doing GB3 and that. it's taken time, but I think he's maturing into a good race driver, whereas some of the other drivers are being rushed along. They're a bit too young, a bit underprepared. You know, Megatunov and Goethe and Lindblad, you know, so Browning is doing a good job. I don't really understand, especially when, you know, the Formula One grid is so stable, that we need to be rushing drivers up to Formula 2. And I'm hoping a lot of the drivers that are in Formula 3 this year don't make that mistake. I don't think that Turka Tarpinen, Uga Ugachukwu, some drivers like this, I don't think they are ready for Formula 2 yet. I think they should do another season of Formula 3. I'd probably put Noah Stromstead in that category. Although he's pretty good, but, you know, these drivers just need a bit more time, I think. Talking now about the title, I just think what's happened here is not so much... I mean, anything can happen at Baku, so I want to hold out, but the thing is that Jack Crawford and Verschoor, there was a good opportunity here today, and I know they've been impacted by the safety car, but they haven't taken the opportunity. The amount of points available are reducing all the time. About half the field now are out of contention mathematically, but I think the more I look at this, you know, I just think Browning... I think what's going to benefit Browning is that he did those races, Baku and Qatar, which a lot of these other drivers have never been to. He did them at the end of last year. Fornaroli, he won't want to have more weekends like that where, I mean, he's known for his racecraft, his consistency. This was a bit messy from him. And I don't know about Alex Dunn. I think there's a very talented driver there. But, you know, if you're at Baku and people are crashing into one another, I don't know what's going to happen. Victor Martins, you know, is unable to show anything at the moment. I don't know if there's going to be any driver changes between now and Baku. There might be driver changes between Baku and Qatar. That might happen. I don't think there'll be driver changes between now and Baku, but it might happen because F3 is over. We might see someone like Karma or Boyer or somebody step up. And yeah, just general thoughts. Not much to say, but Goethe I think is very disappointing, and if it was me, I'd drop him from the Red Bull Academy now. He's just been dreadful. He always even if he's in a good position, he finds an incident. He finds a way to throw it away. But he probably deserves another season next year. But I don't know. I don't really see anything. I suppose he has flashes of speed. Yeah, done for sure. Crawford has talked about. Browning for Marty is an interesting one. He seems to be. He needs to improve his qualifying. But I really feel like the only 4 drivers that can win this are Verschoor, Crawford, Fornaroli and Browning. But I'm just not seeing the form from Crawford and Verschoor. So to me, it's Fornaroli and Browning at this point. I hope at Baku we aren't really going to have a crash fest, you know. I don't really want to see cars strewn everywhere, crashing. I'd like to see the standards that we saw back in Spa and Silverstone come back. That'd be nice. And yeah, hopefully it's a good race.
It'll be a first win in Formula 2 for High-Tech's Luke Browning, who